Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om 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 Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shrutismrutipuranam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badaraya Shakruto Vande Bhagavanto Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeri Murtibheda-vibhagine Vyomavadvyaptadehaya Dakshinamurtaye. Om Namo Brahmadibhyah Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartrubhyah Vamsharshibhyah Mahadvyah Namo Gurubhyah. So in the introduction, the Akhyayika, the anecdote, we were told how once upon a time Sri Yajnavalkya came to the court of King Janaka. And this time Yajnavalkya thought that I will not say anything. And so King Janaka did not have permission to ask any question. However, on an earlier occasion, the two had met during a ceremony when they had a discussion with each other on the subject of the Agnihotra. And Yajnavalkya was quite impressed by the knowledge that King Janaka had about the Agnihotra ceremony. So at that time he had given him a boon that you can ask of what you want. That time King Janaka said, I reserve my boon and at an appropriate time I will ask a question of my choice. Thus, this boon is there in standing in account of King Janaka. So he thought today was a good occasion to cash on that boon. So when Sri Yajnavalkya came to the court of King Janaka, then he did not have to seek permission for asking boon because he already had that boon. Therefore, King Janaka took the initiative of asking the question. Yajnavalkya, Kim Jyotirayam Purusha? Hey Yajnavalkya, I am Purusha, this person. Explained as a Karyakarana Sanghata consisting of the gross and the subtle bodies. Gross body is called Karyam and subtle body is called Karanam. Karya Karana Sanghata, the assembly or aggregate of the gross and the subtle bodies. Kim Jyoti, what is it that serves as a light for this in this person because of which he is able to conduct his activities. For conducting activities, we need light. Like right now, for example, also for conducting this activity of giving this class and listening, we require light. Those days, of course, we did not have these artificial lights, electric lights, only lights, they were the natural lights. So during the day, the light that was available was the sunlight. And so started with a simple question. Kim Jyotiriyam Purushaha e Yajnavalkya? What is the light which enables this person to perform his or her various activities? So what serves as a light? What is a light? Because of which? Because those days all activities were performed as at today also, and we require light. So during the day it is light of the sun. Aditya Jyotish. Hey Samrat or King, it is Aditya or the sun who provides the light because of which the individual is able to perform his or her activities. Very good. King Janaka said, Evameva etadhyagnyavakya. That is right, that it is light of sun which enables us to perform all activities. Astamite Aditya. But hey Yagnyavakya, when the sun sets, then what's the light which enables the person to perform the activities? Chandramaha Vasya Jyotihi is the moon that serves as a light for the person to perform all the activities, all the vyavahara, all the transactions. And so, aste, palyate, karma kurate, vipalyate iti. In that light, this person sits in his home, palyate, performs or goes out, karma kurute, performs various activities, vipalyate, returns home. Very simple way of life is described here. Shivam Yajnavalkya, that's right. Astamite Aditya. But here Yajnavalkya, when the sun sets, Astamite Chandramasi, when the moon also sets, Kim Jyotirevayam Purusha, then what serves as a light for this person to perform his activities? Agnirevasya Jyotir. It is fire, the torch that becomes a Jyoti, the light, because of which he is able to perform his activities. Aste sits in the home, Palyate goes out, Karma Kurute performs activities, Vipalyate returns home, and light up the torch or the fire. Evamayeta Yajnavalkya, that's right, Yajnavalkya, that it is the light of fire. Astamite Aditya Yajnavalkya, Chandramati Astamite Shante Agnav. Then when the sun sets, the moon also sets, and the fire of the torch also is extinguished. Kim Jyotirevayam Purushaha. Then what is that serves as light to this person to perform the activities? Now it's dark everywhere. There's no sunlight, no moonlight, no light of fire. It's dark everywhere. So Vagyavasya Jyotir Bhavati. The sound becomes a Jyoti as though, meaning sound as though becomes a light, because of which this person is able to perform the activities. At home also, even though you may not see anything, where are you? I'm here. Where should I go? You go there. When you go out also, when there is dark, then also in the light, in the sound of the dogs barking, etc., you know that this is where the town or the village is, and in that direction in which I have to go. Tasmad vai samrat api yatra swah panina vinijnayate, where one cannot see even one's own hand because it is so dark, then it is by the sound of the speech of somebody, even of an animal also, like the dog barking. This person, this is how they used to function those days. So they were pretty well trained to use the light of the star, etc., to give them directions. Here, it is the sound maybe made by an animal that enables them to determine what the direction is and which way to go. Astamite Aditya Yajnavalkya. Okay, Yajnavalkya, when the sun sets, Chandramasi Astamite, the moon also is set. Shante Agnav, the torch also is extinguished. Shantayam Vasi is no more the sound of the speech also. Kim Jyotirevayam iti Purushaha. Then what serves as a light to this person to perform activities? Now here King Janaka was expected to understand what was the situation that was being described. That when the sun does not shine, the moon also does not shine, the fire also is not there, even the speech or sound is not there, and then also the transaction, the vyavahara takes place. Now we know that in waking state, by vyavahara I mean transaction, interaction. Sitting in the home, going out, performing activities, returning home, that's the vyavahara, that's the transaction. So, for now, this is a necessary transaction in life of human being, but no source of light is available. How does it do that? The conventional lights are all absent. Sun is not there, moon is not there, fire is not there, even the sound of speech is not there. So, what is the state that is being described by these words? This cannot be the description of the waking state because in waking state one of these lights will be there. So none of the lights that are conventionally available during the waking state, when none of those lights is there and still the activities of sitting at home, going out, performing activities, returning home, all this still takes place. So now what is being talked about? What is the state that Yajnavalkya is talking about, or King Janaka? So what is the state? The dream. This is what Yajnavalkya has to understand. What King Janaka is asking. He just says the sun is not there, moon is not there, fire is not there, speech is not there, and still the activities are there. So you wonder. So then Yajnavalkya understands that he's talking about dream state. Even though in dream also we have sun and moon and fire and all lights are there, the dream lights are there. The dream, the waking lights are not there. So these lights are not there, and still the dream, this transaction of being at home, going out, performing activities, returning home, they all seem to take place. And we know in the dream how those activities take place. Because when we fall asleep, that will be discussed here also. That then the dream starts because of some very persuasive experience that takes place during the waking state. Something that has created in me a strong impression during the waking state. The samskaras or impressions of an experience like that are going to be strong, and therefore often those samskaras or impressions from the experience of waking state become the basis of creating a new world of dream. So for dream also some basis must be there. Your dream is different, my dream is different. Today's dream that I have is one, tomorrow's dream will be different, yesterday's dream was different. So, what causes the dream experience? It is the impression that we carry on during the experience of the day, during the day. And those samskaras or impressions that are planted in the mind, they create the dream world. This is going to be discussed. So, this is where I'm right now, So, Yajnavalkya understood that King Janaka is asking about the dream state. Kim Jyotirayam Purushaha. So, what is it that serves the light? Atmayavasya Jyotir Bhavati. So, all these traditional lights are not there in dream, meaning the source of light that we have during the waking state are not there in the dream. And still, in the dream also a similar vyavahara or transaction seems to take place. The dream also I find myself being sitting at home, going out, finish performing the chores, returning home. So kind of a vyavahara or the interact transaction that takes place in the waking state, I experience a similar transaction taking place in the dream also. Except that there are no conventional lights available. The idea is that you need light in order to perform any vyavahara. And none of these conventional lights of sun and moon and fire are available in the dream. And in the dream still, I find myself performing similar activities. So what serves the light in the dream? Atma evasya Jyotir bhavati. Hey Janaka, it is Atma, the very self, the consciousness is the light. Atma evam jyotisha aste palyayate karma kurute vipalyate iti. It is light of the self, light of consciousness. So in the dream, the self or consciousness serves as a light that illumines the dream world. Although there may be sun and moon in the dream also, but the sun and moon also is illumined by the light of consciousness. And so it is light of consciousness that illumines the dream world, and that serves a light for this person to perform all the activities. So thus far we discussed yesterday. So one thing that we understand from this discussion is that what serves as a light for this person or this Karyakarana Sanghata or this assembly of the gross and subtle bodies individual, what serves as a light is different from this one. Is different from the Karyakarana Sanghata, different from the gross and subtle bodies, different from this person. So in all these examples, what serves as a light is different from this. Even Atma also. Although the Atma or the self appears to be within, so Swami, how is Atma different from the body? It is so-called within the body, but not the body. And therefore, even Atma also is different from this Karyakarana Sanghata. Is also different from this body, mind, sense complex. And illumines this complex. So one thing is certain that what serves the light is different from what is illumined. namely this Karyakarana Sanghata. So this is to us looks like very clear. But here Tikakara says that look, the kind of logic that is required to understand is a little subtle logic. When you shift from these local luminaries to Atma, that is a quantum step really. Although the teacher said it is by the light of the Atma that the Vyavahara is performed, but it is a quantum jump because the Atma is a Jyoti or a light of a different class. It is not shining out there, although these lights were different from the body, but shining out there. Atma also is a light different from body, but not shining out there. So you could see the sun and the moon, and therefore that logic was very clear as to how the sun, moon, fire, they all illumine this Sanghata. Atma does not shine out there. And teacher says by light of Atma, light of self, that all this Vyavahara takes place. And therefore this involves a little subtle level of logic or thinking. And therefore looks like we could understand it well simply. But then Atma is not as knowable as the sun is, or the moon is, or the fire is. When the teacher said sun illumines, moon illumines, fire, it was very clear because we can see all those luminaries other than ourselves. The teacher shifted from those luminaries that are out there to Atma, which is not out there. The logic is not simple. Logic is not the same category. Therefore, it is likely that someone may have difficulty in understanding this. Stretching that logic to arrive at the Atma may be difficult. And therefore, another thing is that there is the expression anugrahaka anugrahya. Anugrahaka here that which illumines. Anugrahya that which is illumined. That which illumines like the sun, moon, etc. That which is illuminated like this body, mind, sense complex. So we find that the illuminator and the illumined belong to the same class. When it comes to sun and the moon and fire, etc., the illuminator and the illumined belong to the same class. But when it comes to Atma, that rule does not apply. So there also it may be difficult to stretch the last step from the fire or from the speech to Atma. That may be a difficult step. Therefore, still King Janaka is not very clear about the nature of the Atma. And therefore, he asked this question in the next passage. We're on the page 5 here on this handout, very first line. So I'm reading, you please repeat after me. Katam Atma iti yoyam vijnanamaya praneshu hridi antarjyotihi purushaha saha samanasan ubhau lokau anusancharati dhyayativa leelayativa sahe स्वप्नो भूत्वा imam lokam atikramati mrityoho rupani. These are fairly well-known passages, and those of us who have been studying Shankara Bhashya, well, now and then Shankaracharya ji also quotes some statements from the other Upanishads or elsewhere, and we find that Shankaracharya, huh? No. So Shankaracharya ji, we have very often quotes from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So what Pujya Swami used to say, that if you do not know where this quotation comes from, you can be saying, say Brihadaranyaka. So these are oft quoted passages, what we are reading here. Like Dhyayati va, Lelayati va, Bhashyakara quotes elsewhere, and other things also. So therefore, it may be important for the long-term students, to pay it. I cannot say that you memorize these things, but some statements, it is familiarize yourself with them because you may find them appearing in other places too. Unless you can quote them and impress the people. Katha Atma Yam Vignan hai Prana Shrudhyante Jyoti. People will be really impressed when you say this. So Katama Atma, what is Katama? Kaha Katara Katama. Kaha, one, who? Katara, which of the two? Katama, which of the many? So Katama Atma, which of the many things that is Atma? That's an interesting question. All of a sudden, from what was being discussed earlier, this question to us doesn't seem, it just comes from blue. How did this question arise in the mind of King Janaka? Katama, which of these is Atma? Because he already has some idea. King Janaka is also a very learned person. And so there are many things that get to be called Atma or I in this complex. Sometimes the body is called Atma because the I is identified with the many layers of the personality. So sometimes I talk as a person who is this body. When I say I'm tall, I'm short, I'm Swami, etc., is the body with which I am identified. Sometimes I'm identified with my emotions. When don't talk to me, I'm angry, things like that. So that time identified with the emotions or impulses, identified with my thoughts. I'm a, I follow this person, I favor this party, I favor this philosophy, this thinking. That is the identification, the intellect. So sometimes we call this body as Atma in our day-to-day life. Sometimes we call even sense organs also as Atma. Identify. I see, I hear when I say, in fact, what sees as eyes. And what do I say? I see. What performs the function of hearing? The organ of hearing performs the function of hearing. I say, I hear. Thus, very often I identify with the organs of perception. This hands grasp, and I say, I am grasping, I am walking, I reached, I am talking. What is it that is talking? The organ of speech is talking, really, is it not so? What is listening right now, the organ of hearing is listening. What is sitting there is the body is sitting. Is that right or not? We habitually assume that I'm sitting, I'm talking, I'm walking, I'm seeing, I'm thinking. But in fact, in all those expressions, some identification is involved. Where the legs are walking, I say, I'm walking. But Swamiji, I am the legs, I may not. Well, if you identify yourself the legs, then you are the legs, otherwise legs are walking. Speech is talking. If you create distance, speech is talking, eyes are watching. Is it not so? So when we are awareful, then realize that the ears are hearing, organ of hearing is hearing, etc. But habitually we say, I am hearing. So this is identification habitual. In the class, we say, I am not the body. This fellow goes to the Ganga and then the instruction is that you should not take more than 3 dips in the Ganges because our body can get, because of the cold water. It's likely that it may get stiff. And so this person is taking dips 1, 2, 3, 4 and say, hey, you stop it. He says, I'm not taking dips in the Ganga, my body is taking dips. This fellow took one stick and hit him. Hey, don't hit me. I'm not hitting you. I'm hitting your body. The identification is very, very natural or instantaneous. This is our problem. That we are born with the habit of identifying with this body. By body and body and mind and sense organs, we are born with identifying. Maybe that is required, that's why Ishvara must have done, so that the life can go on, samsara can go on, we can perform vyavahara, and his world also will go on. If you are born enlightened, then who will sustain the universe of Ishvara? It is ignorance that is required to sustain this vyavahara, and so we are all born ignorant. An immediate effect of ignorance is identification. Not only I do not know that I am consciousness, but then I think that I am body. So as I said yesterday, not only the absence of knowledge, but then false knowledge exists in our life. And therefore, sometimes this body is called Atma, sometimes prana is called Atma, the vital air. Sometimes the mind is called Atma, I become an emotional being. Sometimes intellect is called Atma, I become, a thinking person. So this notion of I keeps on shifting, understand? Depending upon the layer of my personality with which I get identified. Therefore, the question that is asked next time is, therefore, Atmaswarupam Sandhyana Pruchati. Therefore, King Janaka asks of Yajnavalkya, now, what is this jump from the previous passage to this? That's why we have to give all this introduction in between. So next passage says, Katam Atma iti. We read this. Katam Atma iti. So Kataha, Kaha, Kataraha, Katama. Which of these many is Atma? Is body the Atma, prana the Atma, sense organ the Atma, the mind the Atma, intellect Atma? Because we are habituated to call these various entities as Atma at various times. We are not consistent at all. We keep on shifting our identifications. Therefore, we behave as different people almost at different moments. You thought that I was an intelligent person, always thinking, and then I become an emotional person with no thinking, an impulsive person, I just react. You wonder, Swami is like that. When you talk in the class, you are so intelligent and and then outside, you see me. So you wonder, is the same Swami? Sometimes I'm an impulsive person, sometimes I'm a thinking person. Depending upon the aspect of my personality with which I'm identified. Therefore, I act as different persons at different times. Therefore, the question is, which of these is Atma? The one who is talking is Atma, one is thinking is Atma, one is feeling emotions is Atma. Of all of these, which one is Atma? The answer is Yoyam Vijnanamaya Praneshu Hrudyantar Jyotihi Purushaha. So much description is given about the Atma. Yaha ayam, yaha, the one that you're asking about, here, hey king, ayam, that one is this Vijnanamaya. Vijnanam means intellect here. Vijnayate anena iti Vijnanam. That by which one knows, Vijnanam is knowledge. So here Vijnana means also the Karana Vyutpatti Vijnayate Aneneti Vijnanam. That by which one knows is called Vijnanam here. So what is it by which we know? What is our instrument of knowledge? What is it by which we know? And not a very profound question, a simple question. I mean, when I ask a question, people think that, I don't know what he means. He may be trapping us. No, there's no trap here. Just a simple question. So, what is it with which we know intellect? So, Vijnayate aneneti Vijnanam. And by which one knows is called Vijnanam here. So, Vijnanam is intellect. Vijnanamaya. The word Vijnanam and a suffix is added here, Mayat. Mayat means Prachurya, primarily, mainly. So Vijnanamaya, who is mainly Vijnanam, mainly intellectual, meaning one who is identified with the intellect. Vijnanamaya, the one who is identified with Vijnanam or intellect. The word Vijnanam may not mean the same thing everywhere. Therefore, these words will have to be interpreted depending upon the context. Here, the context suggests that Vijnan means intellect. So, Vijnanamaya is the one that is identified as intellect. Then, Praneshu. Which case is that? Praneshu? Seventh case. So, here it means Praneshu Madhye, amongst the Prana. So, Prana can mean the vital air. Prana also can mean a sense organ. So, in different Upanishads now, sometimes they describe the dialogue between the different sense organs and they are called pranas. Meaning that sometimes, in order to interpret a word, may have to know the context elsewhere. In short, here, the word prana is used not in the sense of vital air, in the sense of sense organ. So, praneshu, among the sense organs. This Atma is not somewhere else. It's right here. And within or among the sense organs, close to sense organs, in the proximity of sense organs. Pranayashu is called Samipya Lakshana Saptami, meaning that in the proximity of pranas or proximity of sense organs, or pranas also means the vital air, so that you do not look elsewhere for Atma, so it says Pranayashu. It is in the proximity of the pranas, not pranas. It is in proximity of prana, but itself is not prana. Atma is in the midst of pranas, midst of vital air, midst of sense organs, but not a sense organ. Means the midst of sense, then it's different from that. So one is prana, pranayeshu, then hrudi, second one. Now which case is that? Hrudi? Hmm? Saptami. Good, good. Which word? Hmm? It is Saptami, certainly. What's the substantive? What of what? Oh, substantive word? Hrit. Right. So substantive hrit means heart. Hrudi in the heart. So now this Atma is in the heart. But really, traditionally, what is in the heart is the intellect. The place of the mind or the place of the intellect is said to be the heart. Different uh, sense organs or different functions have different locations. Like function of seeing is a location in the eyes. Function of hearing is location in the ears. And thus each sense organ of perception and each sense organ of action is a locus of a different, of a separate function. So what about function of thinking? So traditionally, what does Vedanta, what the Vedas talk about? What is the place of the mind? The brain? Here it is said, heart is the place of the mind of the intellect. And we may think that these people do not know what they're talking about. But then research has shown that heart is a much more powerful instrument than even brain. 10 times more powerful. And they say that every organ is its own memories. But the most memories are in the heart. And so traditionally it was thought that the mind has its location in the heart. Sometimes when they divide the mind and intellect, then the mind is a thinking or feeling faculty having locus in the heart. Intellect is a thinking faculty, maybe in the brain, if you want to, But here, Hrudi in the heart. Where is Atma? In the heart. How can it be in heart? But Atma gets reflected in the mind. So mind is a faculty or made of subtle matter of which the nature is to reflect consciousness. Just as it is the nature of water to reflect any lighted object such as sun or moon, so also it is the nature of the mind to reflect the consciousness. So mind is the medium reflecting consciousness, and therefore the reflection appears in the reflecting medium. So you can say, where is the sun? It is in water where it is reflected. So also, where is Atma? Is the heart where it's reflected. Pranayeshu, Hrudi, Antarjyotihi. So we already see Antarjyotihi, the inner light. So already we were told how it is in the light of the Atma alone that all the other faculties function that we saw earlier. Purushaha, Purnatvat Purusha, the one that is complete, one that is whole, one that is limitless. Purusha means one that is limitless. So Purusha, the limitless, or the one who is whole or complete is Purusha. So Yoyam Vijnanamaya Praneshu Hrudi Antarjyoti Purusha. These five adjectives are given here for describing Atma. Vijnanamaya, one is identified as Vijnana or intellect. Praneshu, who is among the pranas, necessarily different from them, but among them. Hrudi, who is reflected in the heart. Anta, inside the heart. Jyoti, of the nature of light or consciousness. Purusha, who is whole or complete. So, Katama Atma. This is a very beautiful description of Atma. That Atma is identified as the intellect naturally. Atma is shining in the midst of all the sense organs. It is shining within the heart, the inner light which illumines everything, and is Purusha, whole or complete or limitless. So this describes that Atma is different. Hrudi in the heart means different from heart. Praneshu in the midst of prana is different from prana. Vijnanam, identified as Vijnanam is different from Vijnanam. So each one of the adjectives told us how Atma is different from this Karyakarana Sanghata. Different from the gross and subtle bodies, Atma is different. This description told us that. So this Atma who is different from the body, mind, sense complex, complete, whole, independent, shining is conscious. So what's the problem? How does he get samsara? How does this Atma says that get to the situation or the state where he's born again and dying and born again? Samsara means a repeated cycle of birth and death. One definition. Samsarati, Rasmini samsara, that in which one keeps on sliding, being born and dying, being born and dying. That process of repeated birth and death is traditionally called samsara. So this person or the Atma who is described as independent of all of these mind and heart and body and shining in its own light, self-effulgent, complete, whole, limitless. How does Atma suggest that become a samsari? Like you and I. Samsari means one who thinks that is limited, one who thinks that is lacking, wanting. And therefore there's always an impulse, to become free because I find I am bound, I am limited. And that impulse creates various desires that if I get that, I'll become free. If I do this, I'll become free. And prompted by those desires, I perform those respective actions. Each of these actions give rise to a karma phala or result. Result may be something that I like, that I'm happy. Something that I may not like, unhappy. And therefore the result of an action is happiness or unhappiness. If I'm happy as a result of an action, then I want more of it, so I want to perform that action again. If I'm unhappy, then I don't want to perform that action, I want to avoid that action. So result of the action, happiness or unhappiness, in turn creates another desire either to repeat that action or avoid the action. So action creates the outcome, result of the action. The result is in the form of the happiness or unhappiness, which in turn prompts me to perform other action, either acquire happiness or avoid unhappiness. So we can see how this Jivatma is prompted from action to the outcome to action to the outcome to every action creates outcome. Every outcome also then prompts us to for another action that creates another outcome that prompts into another action. Thus, this poor Jivatma is bound in this chain of the action and reaction, the karma and karma phala. You follow? We are swept in the current. There is no choice or there is no freedom. You perform an action, outcome will come. Outcome comes, I will react either with happiness or unhappiness. That reaction I will, again will prompt me to perform an action or avoid something. That creates another action. And thus we see that habitually we are swept in this current of the action and reaction. A text called Panchadashi says how this Jivatma is swept in the current like a worm, And then there are those, what do you call them? The whirlpools. So fellow goes, this worm, one whirlpool comes out with great difficulty, another whirlpool is waiting, third, this whirlpool, after the whirlpool, imagine that little insect. That's what we are. That we are also being swept from one action to the other, from one outcome to the other, from one experience to the other, from one pain to the other. No, Swami, you don't be so negative. It's not all pain. In a lot of happiness also in life. The Yoga Shastra says that the happiness that we get from this, that limited happiness, is as good as unhappiness for a yogi because you could have gotten limitless happiness every moment. Your potential is, if you knew who you are, then every moment you have been enjoying limitless happiness and you settled for these little pieces of happiness. Happiness, where Puja Swami said, dukham, 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 sukham. Dukham, 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 sukham. Dukham, 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 sukham. And never, but what else? We have no choice. We have to settle with what we get. So in general, there is helplessness in the life of the human being. He's always struggling to become free, struggling to become happy. In that struggle, he creates further unhappiness for himself, and thus the struggle continues and doesn't stop at one lifetime. We die with this struggling mind, and we are born again, take another birth with that same struggling mind, and we continue. So same pattern continues in the next birth also. Because we are born with the same kind of habits. So this is how Panchadashi describes how, like a worm which goes from one whirlpool to the other, the human being also goes from one birth to the other, from this to the second. So that is a process that is described further here. Saha samanasan ubho loko anusancharati. Samanaha means equal. Saha samanasan, he becomes equal. Equal to what? Equal to what he identifies with. For example, when fire identifies with a ball of iron, what becomes the shape of fire? That of iron. When iron identifies with fire, what becomes the color of iron? That of fire. Each one loses his own individual thing and becomes something different from what it is because of identification. So here also this Atma we are talking about. Which Atma? That's the light of all the light that illumines all lights. That Atma, because of identification with one body mind complex, then is swept in this current of one action to the other, one verse to the other. And we are born with the habit of identifying with this body. Therefore, saha samanasan. Samana means equal. Just as the fire becomes equal to iron when it identifies, or iron becomes equal to fire, fire becomes equal in the sense that it also becomes round, which is otherwise fire is formless, but becomes round when identifies with a ball of iron. So also Atma is consciousness, limitless, but becomes equal to his body when identifying with the body. You can say the Atma is like that fire, the body is like that iron. And just as when the fire identifies iron, then fire takes the shape of iron, becomes as limited as iron, and so also consciousness, when identifies with this body mind complex, then takes the form of the body mind complex, becomes as limited as the body mind complex. This is called Jivatma. So here we have the anatomy of how Atma, that consciousness, light of all the lights, which is separate from everything, independent of everything. Purusha, the person, the complete, the whole. How? Because of identification, becomes an insignificant creature. Each one of us is insignificant, even though we may be significant as far as the world is concerned. But we are insignificant with reference to the potential that we have because we are supposedly limitless. Even if I'm a great person in the world, still it's limited. How rich can I be? How wealthy can I be? How famous can I be? How powerful can I be? You may control the whole world and you may be famous everywhere. Still what? It is still in a given time, in a given place, for a given duration. And with reference to infinity, it is insignificant. So this poor human being always suffers from a sense of insignificance and always struggling to become significant. Each one of us is constantly struggling to become significant. So, samana sanna, because of identification with the body mind complex, he becomes as small or limited or insignificant as that, and then he struggles to become significant. This is called samsara. No reason. If I knew that of what I am already significant, I'm limitless. But taking myself to be as insignificant as a body, all the time I struggle to be significant. To always, I demand attention. I want to be seen. I want to be noted. I want to be appreciated. Everybody, there's no exception to this. In their own way, everybody is doing this. So what is our life? I want to be noted. I want to be recognized. I want to be significant. This is called samsara. And that is being described here. We'll continue in our next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamada Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashyakrutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeri Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम